the Hurricane Center, very recently about all this stuff. I know we were touching on it's being really quiet right now with a big lull in activity. This is interesting, Brittany, that, this year, similar to last year, kind of having a lull in a similar time frame. So I guess last year it was a little bit earlier. Most of the month of August didn't have much activity going on. But we all know what happened after that. Of course, last year we had Hurricane Helene, which happened later on. So this is nice. The break is nice, but it doesn't necessarily say anything about what could happen several weeks down the road from right now. So this is a really cool graphic here where we're looking at this season and what has been going on. We don't know what the rest of the year will look like, but looking at last year, we're actually still, pretty much ahead of that pace that last year set.
Yeah, because Gordon was on September 11th, which would be Thursday. We know nothing's going to happen within the next week. And I know we'll talk more about this likely right here on Live Weather Impact tomorrow. But there are some long-range suggestions that would tell us that things will get more active to the end of September. I don't want to go too much in the weeds because I know we wanted to talk about this tomorrow. But at least models long-range hinting at less wind shear. We know less wind shear means storms are less likely to be ripped apart. Right now there's a TUT, which we won't get, again, too much into this, but it's essentially a trough that can oftentimes rip storms apart or prevent them from developing because of said wind shear and dry air. That looks to be weakening. High pressure, suppressing storm activity just off the coast of Africa looks to be lowering. So again, that's based on long-range models and what typically happens in late September and early October, because we also will see more instability normally late September and early October. And even though we had Aaron, our overall sea surface temperatures are the 6th warmest since 1979. So again, looking at these trends, it doesn't mean that we will see a bad storm, but we know that it's still possible. And hopefully, when that storm forms, because one probably will, it stays offshore.
Yeah, that's all you can do is, there's nothing, we're of course going to have more storms that form. You just hope that they do not come our way. And if they do, you've got to have that plan ready to go. And usually you'll have at least a 5-day, warning of preparation, right? And we'll, of course, keep you up to speed on that. But from that last graphic you showed, there were about 3 storms that formed within about 4 days of each other. So you can get kind of a burst or a flurry activity once that switch gets flipped. So we'll keep an eye out next couple of weeks.
We certainly will. Well, we'll be back same time, same place on the official peak of hurricane season right here on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus tomorrow. Tim, have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we can enjoy some hot coffee together at some point.
Cheers.
Or iced.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We will be together for the next couple of hours here. And starting off with elections, because it is primary day in Charlotte, and we're probably about 28 minutes, looks like, away from polls closing. We've got our Julie Kay, who's our policy reporter here, joining us to talk about all of the storylines. I guess maybe start with mayor, since I think that's probably one of the big ones that folks are looking at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that position was already particularly interesting prior to what's going on now, which we'll get into in a bit. But Mayor Vilal's asking people for a 5th term in office. That's notable just in the length of her tenure. Also that she is facing in the Democratic primary today 4 other opponents. This has become a hotly contested seat, largely because, months ago, even when we had this whole drama with the CMPD chief payout to Johnny Jennings, but now, of course, with the murder of Irina Zarutska, the response from the mayor's office, from Mayor Vilal's, has been heavily criticized, not just by the public, but also by other mayoral candidates, making this a really, really interesting race. Like I said, 4 other candidates, we did get responses from all of the other Democratic candidates on their plans for transit. They took different angles. Some people focused more on the mental health aspect, the mental health resources. Some focused more on criticizing the courts. And some directly criticizing Mayor Vilal's for just kind of the lack of response immediately after that. And so I think that just because this is happening literally right now and hitting the national spotlight, that's the race people are going to be most interested in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in the sense that we were already kind of talking about the spotlight on the city in general when it came to the CMPD chief settlement. We know that the state auditor's office is now looking into that. That's new news from just today. But we also saw that the state auditor says that it plans to pretty soon release that report that it's been doing into the city and how the city handled that settlement, right?
Yeah, that report is expected to come out this week. That was really interesting because those came in the same press release, and that one was kind of at the end, and so we almost missed it. But we've been thinking about that for months now. Of course, we did eventually get the information. Chief Jennings did release that publicly after having conversations internally after the state auditor announced that he would be investigating. But that investigation did continue, not because it wasn't just looking into the amount of money. I think it was the process that decision was made. And so it'll be really interesting to see what that report says later this week. So this has been, like you mentioned, just a seat that's been at the forefront of the conversation for months now. And I think that this, even just today, not just the state auditor, we're hearing more from the legislature about how they believe the city is handling this. We're hearing from President Trump and from the Trump administration. Now DeCarlos Brown facing federal charges as well. So there's so many pieces of input from all different places right now that I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the public here in Charlotte has to say.
Now, regarding the response, too, we saw the mayor pretty sharply criticized by the FOP, so the police union essentially here in Charlotte, for her statement immediately following that light rail stabbing on August 22nd. And essentially, because you brought up the mental health element, that was a pretty large portion of her statement regarding mental health and kind of like the lacking resources. But police union there, the FOP, basically saying like they felt like she was deferring the topic a bit. And what's interesting is we've now seen them endorse one of her competitors in the primary, McGinnis, I believe. So that's an interesting twist.
Yeah, and the endorsements, especially here in Charlotte, I think do add an interesting layer to this because we do, we'll get into District 3 in a bit too. That was one of the races where we saw a surprise endorsement that kind of threw things for a bit of a loop earlier on in this process. But even last night I was on Impact News talking about Mayor Vilal's releasing her plan to, prevent something like this from happening in the future, released the night before the primary, the same day that Donald Trump said something about this. And something I mentioned last night, too, is, of course, in those plans, those are not things that can necessarily always be drawn up overnight. Some of those things do take time, but this is now, I believe, the 3rd statement we've gotten from Mayor Lyles, and both statement 1 and 2 were criticized pretty publicly. The first one you mentioned did focus on that mental health aspect, but it also didn't name the victim. And I think that was a big piece of this puzzle as well.
Yeah. Well, you just brought up District 3. We know that's another one that's gotten a lot of eyeballs for a lot of different reasons. Also, I don't want to say just a long saga in and of itself, but what are you hearing on that front as far as, Tijuana Brown and how it might shape up with folks who are trying to, I guess, dethrone her from office, I guess.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she is accusing people of, is saying that especially these charges against her are an active political political aggression. So as you mentioned, Tijuana Brown, current incumbent facing two challengers for her second term. She is also facing federal charges that is still ongoing. She's accused of misusing hundreds of thousands of dollars with her $2 in COVID PPP loans. That, of course, innocent until proven guilty. That is still ongoing, but that is looming. If she were to be found guilty and she were to be reelected, that is a problem that a lot of voters that I've spoken to are considering, because then you'd have to have another one of those special elections, or someone would have to be appointed. So there would be just some sort of issue there going forward. However, I mentioned the endorsements that have added a lot of intrigue to this particular race. The FOP, also the Charlotte Black Political Caucus, endorsed Joy Mayo, one of her challengers, and she has another one as well, Warren Turner. So that has added to an interesting piece to this puzzle. Those are very important endorsements, and there was a lot of drama about whether or not people, even within those organizations, were happy with those endorsements, and so that is going to be just an even bigger piece of this puzzle on top of the ongoing federal charges that she's facing.
Yeah. And I mean, we've mentioned this, of course, this is the primary, so we are seeing a lot of the races here on the Democratic side, but there is a Republican race to talk about, and we've got District 6, which is yet another interesting layer. It's just kind of crazy to think all of the different storylines going on here. So District 6 vacated by Tarek Bakari.
I know, I'm almost like struggling I'm trying to say these and without going on for 10 or 15 minutes, but some of these sagas have been going on for so long that it's almost hard to summarize. But you're right, District 6 seat was vacated by Tarek Bakari. He went and joined the Trump administration to be, working at the federal transit level, actually just left that seat earlier. Just days ago, as his wife, Krista Bakari, is running for that same seat. What is especially interesting about this one, and she does have a challenger, and that is why this is our only Republican primary that you're going to see in Charlotte. That's for our District 6 voters. But Krista Bakari attempted to fill that seat when Tarek left. As I mentioned, when someone leaves, you have to fill it. City Council is supposed to appoint a Republican from District 6. And so they chose Edwin Peacock in a tiebreaker vote as opposed to Krista Bakari. They specifically, council, wanted somebody who did not want to run again for that seat because they did not want them to be focused on running for re-election, which some people suggested that might be one of the reasons why Krista Bakari was not chosen in Mayor Vilal's tie-breaking vote. Edwin Peacock, though, actually is running again for an at-large seat, though, not for this seat. So there's just so much going on in this, so many layers. And whoever wins that seat will have a Democratic challenger as well. So still more to go with that. Yeah,
and I was just thinking about, the at-larges and, on the Democratic side, there's a list of folks, but on the Republican side, that is interesting to think about Edwin Peacock in that position of vying for that at-large because he is a Republican, obviously Charlotte, heavily Democratic, but he apparently has had success previously with winning these citywide seats as a Republican.
I believe he might be the last one to do it. And so that kind of adds an interesting layer to this as well. Charlotte has grown a lot since then. A lot of other influences, the voter pool has changed a lot, and so I'll be curious to see how that goes. I just actually went to the polls myself. I went to see how it was. Actually,
quick vote.
Quick vote on my break, my dinner break. I went, most people's like after work time, and it was actually pretty busy in my precinct. But you get to choose 4. There's quite a few names on that list, so do your research. Wait, do we still have time? In the next 19 minutes, if you're going out to vote.
It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible to get there, I think. And, while You said it was kind of busy for you. I mean, who knows how it is for your precinct where you are. In some cases, folks have been walking in and like voting in just seconds. So
Yeah.
A question, and I don't know if this is right. Is it if you are in line before the polls close, you are able to vote?
Yeah,
All right,
correct.
just want to make sure.
Jeb's about to leave right now.
Well,
Yeah, next commercial break, I'm out of here.
what's funny is I'm trying to imagine the line. I mean,
I will say there was no line.
There's no line.
When they say it was busy, it was more
People
than
are
gonna
watching the
walk
show,
right
they're like,
in.
oh my gosh, I got to vote.
I
It's
know.
Tuesday. There's no football. You know,
Yeah.
busy comparable to primary elections that I've seen prior to this, which
Yeah.
is pretty, yeah.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, I think we talk about this every election that comes up. There's a lot of eyeballs always on a presidential election, and so sometimes you get these local and, municipal elections that kind of fly under the radar, but these local races matter. Like, these are the folks who are making decisions on the local level in your area, so don't discount that.
When you complain about traffic, when you complain about the way that your neighborhood is developed, if you have any issues, that's not at the presidential level. That is your city government, that's your mayor, that's your council person that you're going to want to call. And so I think in situations like this that have reached a national level, again, that's not to discredit what council members and your local government can do to impact how this moves forward. So very important.
We'll have you stick around for this next, development, and we'll see this together for the first time here, but our producer, Jeb, has just popped up a new response. He found it right there on, it looks like X. Roy Cooper now weighing in on the Irina Zarutska killing. And we're kind of bringing you in because I know that you've been doing the reporting on the political response. We have all sorts of folks who've been weighing in on this case, and now we're seeing Roy Cooper, who is, as we mentioned, vying for a Senate seat, weighing in himself. So it's got right there on the screen, the statement. Here, Jeb, if you could scroll just a moment. There we go. The murder of Irina Zarutska is a horrible tragedy, and we must do everything we can to keep folks safe. Only a cynical DC insider would think it's acceptable, he says, to use her death for political points, especially one who supported cutting funding to law enforcement in North Carolina. And then Jeb was scrolling down, and thank you for doing that. Run that, Jeb. I've been Attorney General and Governor, dedicating my career to putting violent criminals behind bars and keeping them there. It's time Michael Whatley and the GOP get serious in Washington about funding our law enforcement, and that's what I'll do as senator. So interesting, because we have been seeing, as of late, a lot of folks from within the Trump administration and, Republicans in general who've been calling out this latest incident.
Yeah, I was waiting to hear something from him, and that does kind of stick with the messaging of his campaign thus far, accusing Michael Whatley of being a DC insider. We've heard that language from him multiple times now, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me. I do think it's been interesting, kind of watching the response, because it is a valid criticism to not want to politicize on either side something that's so tragic like this, but at the end of the day, politics is also government, and that is where changes are made. And so it's interesting to see where different politicians are pointing fingers, for lack of a better term. We've heard, like I mentioned, mental health resources, lack of that be brought up, particularly in the local mayor's race here. Law enforcement and funding for law enforcement as a concept is a big piece of this. Where law enforcement is, the transit system, who is in charge of that, how much security is there, why is our fares not enforced, but also the court system. Why was this person allowed to be out on the street after this many infractions prior to? So there's so many different pieces of the puzzle here. It's been interesting to watch what different politicians have keyed in on as reasoning for this.
Yeah, and we'll just mention for folks here who are loyal viewers of Live Impact News that we are set to speak with some of these big voices in the policy arena, including we're set to speak with Michael Whatley, who has made some statements, and we're hoping to get Roy Cooper too for, some parity and some equity and if they're running against each other. But it's just been wild to kind of see how this story has taken off. And now at the national level, folks across the nation have been watching this.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of layers to it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Julie. We'll remind folks, as we turn it back to elections briefly, polls close in a little less than 15 minutes, and we'll be trying to bring you as quickly as we can any of the results that we get. And yeah,
We'll have the updates at 11.
11 o'clock. I know Julie will be giving us those reports, so thank you so much. We're going to turn now to some of the headlines of the day. Of course, the Katz light rail stabbing rising to the forefront, as Julie and I just alluded to, the fact that this is getting national attention. The White House is watching this. And this all got started really, essentially, we saw kind of over the weekend, following the release late last week of the surveillance video, which certainly caught a lot of eyeballs, went viral. Lots of folks saw that and really kind of started to key in on this situation. Then the president asked over the weekend by a group of reporters whether he had seen the video, whether he knew about the incident, essentially responding there on that Sunday that I'll know more about it tomorrow. And seemingly tomorrow, at that point, Monday, we started to see all of the reaction come in from national level and the White House and various folks from within the administration. So on that note, today, just learning here a new federal charge for the suspect in this case, DeCarlos Brown, now facing a new federal charge regarding this death that happened on a mass transit system. That's essentially the charge. And DOJ made this announcement alongside FBI today here in Charlotte, basically saying that the surveillance video actually was really key in their decision in levying this federal charge. Let's listen in now to what they had to say.
This is obviously a horrible, horrible situation. But this is why federal statutes exist. They exist to take care of situations like this because no one should sit in fear when they sit on the light rail. If you sit in fear on the light rail, you sit in fear when you walk around the streets of our center city like I do every day. You sit in fear when you go to our parks like I do with my daughter every weekend. You sit in fear at our sporting events, our entertainment venues, at concerts, at restaurants, at our museums. These are all the things that we have worked as a city so hard to build. We built this city. Companies have come here in droves. More than 150 people move here every day. We built a city that people want to live in, but we can lose that all if we allow violent crime like this to go on in our streets.
And of course, you can find the full body of reporting on this story on our website, WCNC.com. Much more to come for sure on this story as we continue to follow it in the days and the weeks and potentially months to come. Let's go ahead and turn the page here. We've got actually some brand new information coming into our newsroom. So we've got this Fort Mill arrest that has been made. This is regarding that stabbing that we told you about several days back. August 28th was when this happened in the evening. Fort Mill police say that they had to respond to Steel Street Park. There was reports of gunfire in the area. They found somebody who was unresponsive, and unfortunately that person passed away. Well, just tonight, police say that they've made arrests in connection with that homicide that happened at Steel Street Park. They're saying 18-year-old Jalen DeQuavius Thames of Rock Hill, a 13-year-old unnamed male suspect, of course a minor, so they would not be releasing the name in that case. So that's the arrest there, those two folks that we just mentioned. This regarding the murder of who we're learning is 21-year-old Johnny Wayne Martin Cook, who was the person who was found dead at that park. Lots of offenses that they've noted here: murder, criminal conspiracy, armed robbery, having a weapon during a violent crime, having a stolen firearm. So once again, two people arrested, both teenagers, one a minor, one's 18, one's 13, in the arrest of a 20-year-old who was found dead at a park in Fort Mill several days ago. We'll have more for you at 11 as we get more information. All right, and with that, we'll turn to our final top story of the day. We've got some reporting here on as we're kind of coming up here on a big anniversary, 24 years since 9/11. So we went to Union County because we heard about various officers there who actually responded to that incident, 9/11, that day, and in the weeks following. Let's listen in on their story.
It's been nearly 24 years since the attacks on the World Trade Center rocked our nation to its core. And nearly a quarter of a century later, the officers who answered the call says these memories will never be forgotten.
I remember seeing the North Tower and this large hole inside the North Tower and smoke just coming out of it and people just running and running.
When you see it in real time, it looked like something that you saw in like the 1940s or the bombings of London and France and things of that. You couldn't absorb it all in at the same time, all at once.
Nearly 24 years ago, Chris Castrogiovanni and Tom Luisa, who now serve with the Union County Sheriff's Office, were strangers in New York City. Both rushed in to help civilians and fellow first responders during one of the deadliest attacks on American soil.
It was this big cloud of dust like a big sandstorm, and after it managed to subside a little bit, we were just evacuating people, I remember trying to get those kids out of Stuyvesant High School.
Louisa was a part of a federal drug task force at the time, visiting the area for training. Castrogiovanni, who grew up in Manhattan, was serving on the NYPD detective squad. He was on the search and rescue team at Ground Zero for several weeks. It's an experience he says he'll never forget, especially digging while debris hung over his head.
Then I was assigned to the morgue, which was something in all of itself, where you see firemen that actually basically cooked inside their fire retardant gear, and you're assigned to them to go get x-rays and dental and stuff in order to identify them.
Castrogiovanni tells me he lost 3 of his closest friends who were first responders at the time. He calls them the true heroes.
It's Joe Vidge, Timmy Roy, and Chris Pickford. Chris Pickford was a fireman, Timmy Roy was my old sergeant, and Joe Vigiano, his brother, also died in 9/11.
Both Louisa and Castrogiovanni say they are changed forever.
Well, I'm hoping we never forget, because at times it seems like we've forgotten this country. I'm hoping we never forget.
I've lost a lot of friends. Post 9/11, I've had cancer myself. I have lung problems. I have ENT problems. I have Barrett's disease. So you take every day as a gift.
Union County Sheriff Eddie Cathy spearheaded this effort to honor his deputies to ensure their work will always be preserved. In Union County, Autumn Bracey, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, and be sure that we'll keep you updated on any remembrance events coming up here, of course, in just 2 days on the anniversary of that fateful day. We usually see in the Charlotte area that flags of remembrance that happens in Romare Bearden Park. Really a sight to see as they lay out all of the flags, each one symbolizing the lives lost on 9/11. So we'll be talking more about that here on WCNC Plus in the coming days. With that, we're going to take a quick break, folks. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Welcome everyone back to Live Impact News. Once again, I'm Vanessa Rufus. We've got a brand new live feed coming to us from the Chicago area. And this is an interesting sight to see because a lot of folks seemingly have turned out for this. This is a protest against the so-called Operation Midway Blitz that the Trump administration has executed here. But Michigan Avenue is where we're checking out live aerials right now, as there's this so-called emergency protest that we're seeing to protest against the launch of this new operation, which is targeting folks who are in Chicago and Illinois who might be undocumented people in the area. So the Trump administration, as we mentioned, is calling this Operation Midway Blitz. Started around 5 o'clock local time there, this protest did, as you could see, weaving around various streets in the area. Right there in the middle of the roadway, we're told they're started around that intersection of Ida B. Wells Drive and Michigan Avenue. If you're familiar at all with that Chicago area in Grant Park, it's near there. Two groups are leading this: Coalition Against the Trump Agenda and the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. So if we start to hear any more on that front, we'll go there. If we start to get any interviews that we see coming up on the feed, we'll bring you there as we are able to. But with that, we're going to turn to update that we got today. Some really, really sad news on that 7-year-old boy who was out of Ashboro. He had special needs. He has been found dead, unfortunately, after 3 days of searches. So we're hearing more about the discovery of the body of Liam King today from officials. Let's listen in.
Okay, we'll get started. I think it's 2:30. I want to thank you, the press, for coming and reporting this, getting it out to the public. It helped out quite a bit. But this is not the outcome that we expected. We discovered Liam King's body at 10:15 this morning in a pond located approximately 1/10 of a mile from where he was staying at. The body's going to be sent to Chapel Hill medical examiner's office to be examined and to determine cause of death. And I want to thank the community for their outpouring of support, meals, water. We couldn't ask for any better support from the neighbors and citizens down in that area, the businesses in southern Randolph County that supported us. The number of volunteers that showed up that were experienced in search and rescue. We had them all the way from New Hanover County. And, you know, that's what it's all about, sheriffs helping sheriffs in a time of need. And I wish we had positive information to give you, but hopefully we can learn something from this and be better next time. Our goal was to find him alive, and we did not achieve that goal. I want to thank all the people behind me that spent most of the last 50 hours working either at the airport or at our command bus on Forest Hills Drive. I will open it up for any questions that you may have.
Sheriff, we saw you pretty emotional over there. Can you speak to that?
Anytime you deal with a child, you know, you become somewhat emotional. You know, we all have kids. I've got grandkids, and you put yourself in that position. And, you know, this child had a life to live, and it was taken away from him. And I know he's in a much better place now, though.
Is there any sort of reason to believe there was any foul play involved in this?
or is it confirmed that he did run off?
We're in the process of investigating that at the present time. We're not going to rule it out. We're going to check and make sure that everything's good with the body, and the medical examiner will do a thorough investigation and examination of Liam's body.
And around how long will that take?
It will take several weeks.
What was he doing at that house? I know you had mentioned yesterday that he was visiting somebody. Can you give us any more information on that? Who was he visiting?
Liam was with his mother's boyfriend at the time, and the boyfriend actually lived at that residence, and he was overseeing the child during that period when he disappeared.
Was he alone? Was the mom there too, or was he alone?
No, the mom was at another location.
Who found him and what time exactly was he discovered?
The body was found approximately 10:18 this morning a.m. by Brunswick County Search and Rescue.
Can you confirm if Liam was found in the same pond that you were talking about yesterday that you guys were working to drain?
No, this was a different pond. The first pond was a priority for us due to the location of it. It was on the property or closest to the property where he was at, and it gave us a flag. And you would find ponds located here and there. Looking at GIS, it gives you a better understanding of just how many farm ponds are in Randolph County. Quite a few.
I'm hearing just from some people in the community who are saying that they were frustrated that they weren't able to go out and help search. Can you just help us inform our viewers of why it was so important that it was law enforcement led?
As I stated in the last press conference, the best thing they could do to help the citizens was to check their own property in that area. And, this Liam was found on someone else's property. We did not want people that were not trained to come in and tamper with evidence, even disrupt evidence that could be used for further investigation down the road if we needed it. And that would, you've got people that are untrained that don't know really what to look for. And that's why we had trained individuals go out initially and look at all the possible places he could possibly be.
What kind of evidence were you looking for?
Anything in this type case, from clothing, lost shoe, just any indication of a direction in which he may have been traveling.
I know we're still early in this investigation, but could we expect charges against the boyfriend?
We will have to, we're at the very beginning of the investigation, and we will have to look at everything, take all the evidence for the district attorney, and go from there. It's too early to say.
There's a program called Project Lifesaver that's implemented in Wake County. It provides bracelets to kids who have cognitive impairments for a place to be able to track them. Is that something you guys could possibly implement in the future, or plan to implement something like that in case this does occur in the future?
That would be very helpful to us. We have that same program with dementia patients here in Randolph County, and it would be very helpful. It would lead us straight to that person. And Liam was not subject to doing this, on a consistent basis. So I don't know if he would be eligible or, I guess, warranted to have a bracelet. I could see where if a child does that quite often, it would help us quite a bit in locating that person.
And how would you go about implementing a program like that in the future?
We would look at it. The first thing is knowledge. I want to get someone to come in and talk to us about. I learned a lot, and we all learned a lot about dealing with the cognitive decline, the person who we think is slow, but they're really not slow. They're smart, and we want to learn as much as we possibly can about the condition he had. And there's a program that is circulating in the state of North Carolina now that offers that, and we're talking neighboring sheriffs about having that program come to us and where we could sit down and learn more about autism.
Do you know which parent was the primary caretaker for you?
I do not know.
Do you know if his father is involved in any way in his life, or was he?
I think he is, yes.
Have you spoken to the family? How are they doing?
They're, tore up. As you might could imagine, the mother is, she was out there every minute of that search time, and she's doing as any mother would do, coping with it minute by minute. And just pray for her, pray for the family, and pray for these people behind me. They're the ones that pulled him out of the pond. They're the ones that had to put aside their normal daily activity of being with their family to deal with this. They're the heroes that I look up to each and every day.
Was he found on the edge of the pond or within the pond?
It was near the edge, and we had checked that pond before initially, and there was nothing. We did not locate the body.
That was my next question, actually. Was there any evidence that maybe he had been wandering around these past few days and then just ended up there, or did it seem like maybe he had been there the whole time?
Well, it appeared to our investigators that he went to the first pond that we tracked him with GPS, the phone ping. It showed that he was at that pond, and then went down a main logging road, and that logging road ended up at this pond. And that was a tenth of a mile from the house, approximately 700 feet, maybe a little over.
So you're saying he had a phone on his person?
He had a phone, but it did not operate a lot of the times. We did try to use it, the technology that we have to ping his location, and we utilized that to put us at the first pond. That's why that first pond was very important for us to look at and search.
So to clear up some confusion with some people who obviously are not here and doing the investigation online, whenever you learned of his disappearance, you saw the GPS where he was located. You started at the pond, correct?
We started in the house where he originally was, and we searched every bit, and then we continued outside and did a perimeter search of the outside, and it led us to the pond.
Do you have a final message for our viewers?
No, I just want to say that thank you for your support, Randolph County citizens. they're the best, and I want to thank these men and women behind me for putting their family to the side and going to help someone else's family. That's what it's all about. And, just continue to pray for the King family because they will need it.
Can I ask you, you mentioned that it was Brunswick County. Of course, they're Coastal County, they're not close to here. Was there something about the expertise of the technology they brought to that helped lead to that discovery?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with the expertise. That was their next area to search. And, I think anybody trained in search and rescue would have found the body.
Can you confirm, was the mom, boyfriend, and the father of Liam a part of the search efforts, and were there any other family members who came out?
We communicated with them throughout the search. But as far as them participating in it, no.
And he did not have a history of wandering away?
No.
Okay. Do you know what the boyfriend was doing at the time that he left the house?
That will be part of our investigation.
Can you share more just about, I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but just curious about the other jurisdictions that came in, what kind of resources they were able to bring in? I know that there were some dive teams, different things like that. Can you just kind of elaborate on that?
We had technology from drones, airplanes. We had SBI airplane. We had our airplane that we have. We have helicopters. Highway Patrol had their helicopter. Brunswick County brought their helicopter. We had infrared sonar for underwater rescue. And dive teams from all around the state, search and rescue teams. And is there anything else major? But we had an outpouring of support. And, my phone is loaded with messages, come and help. And, when something bad happens in a community such as this, it brings the community together. Going out and trying to help this family with their problem, and that's what it's all about.
Do you know what time he actually went missing to when you got the call that he had been missing?
That's still in the investigation phase of it.
Talk about lessons learned. I know a lot of people and resources came in. What, throughout this experience, do you think the Sheriff's Department learned? Was there any equipment that you think would have benefited in your search that you'd like to get? Any equipment that didn't work? Just like in general for search and rescue, what did you learn?
Well, Scott, the first thing is phone service in that area. We had none. And we had to get with emergency operations, state emergency management, and they helped us with the system that is used. We used out west some time ago for phone service. We're in the process of purchasing that here, I think, with Randolph County Emergency Management. We just haven't received it yet. We acted with, I guess, the best way we could with the phone service being the way it was, and we quickly got it up and working much quicker than I thought we would. And but working with the state and federal folks, they said we did a great job. We don't do this but once every 4 or 5 years, and it seemed like we didn't have any bad critiques from it other than not locating Liam before he went to the pond.
the state resources, was that FirstNet you were you were referring to?
It was
FirstNet, Starlink, and Verizon. Did your Viper resources work out? Did you bring up any Viper interoperability to help with that?
We did, but I think Captain Grady could probably speak to that better.
Evan Grady, Randolph County Emergency Management. So we did bring in a specialist that is trained through the state North Carolina Emergency Management System to help deal with communication issues, failures, shortcomings. So he, through Chatham County, brought some equipment, a trailer, some cellular data equipment, and Starlink equipment to boast what we could in that vicinity. As the sheriff said, the site presented a lot of issues with connectivity, and we did the best we can by bringing in that resource. Emergency management, our goal is to bring in resources that we don't have currently or that we need in other mutual aid departments or other state agencies might have. So the liaison is the emergency management, working closely with the sheriff's office, helping identify needs of the responders on scene and getting those here as quickly as possible. That was very effective in this case, from manpower to equipment to food. The process worked very well.
Sheriff, you mentioned the emotional side of this, and I'm just wondering what kind of support is available for those responders and volunteers who have invested themselves emotionally in this and had this unfortunate tragic outcome.
Yeah. Back in 2018, when I started as a sheriff here, we started a peer support team, which is a group of individuals that are trained and also work alongside you day to day, that can counsel you, that can look and see if there's any inconsistencies with your behavior after seeing something like this or experiencing something like this. So we're here helping each other, and that will continue throughout the next year, I'm sure. This is one of the longest search and rescues we've ever had here in Randolph County.
Do we think that he would have been found sooner if the service was better out there, since he did have the phone on him? Do we know if that was like an issue with locating him?
No, I don't think the phone service played a huge part. We were there. We would have done, even if we had grade A phone service, we would have done what we did initially. And I don't think it would play a part, no.
Just to get some clarification, had that pond that he was found in, had that already been searched?
Yes, it had. We had went around it.
All right, folks, we're pivoting away from this. We're just getting brand new images live into the Live Impact News studio. It looks like the president, the travel pool that follows the president, has stopped him and is asking questions. Let's listen in right now.
It's going to be something where we'll do like we did here. But this city, here I am standing out in the middle of the street. I wouldn't have done this 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I certainly wouldn't have done it a year ago. This was one of the most unsafe cities in the country. Now it's as safe as there is in the country. So we're here with cabinet members having dinner, and everybody should go out. The restaurants now are booming. People are walking. Thank you. Thank you. The restaurants now are booming. People are going out to dinner where they didn't go out for years, and it's a safe city. And I just want to thank the National Guard. We loved working with the mayor and the chief, and we all work together, and the outcome is really spectacular. We have a capital that's very, very safe right now.
Mr. President, about the Israeli strike earlier today.
Well, I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled about it. I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this: we want the hostages back, but we are not
We apologize, folks. We're working on getting this feed back and up and running. Obviously, you saw it kind of just glitched out and just dropped out just a moment ago. But essentially what you saw there, the president standing on the sidewalk, essentially out in the streets in D.C., touting how he says it feels a lot safer now and how he says that the economy is booming as folks also feel safer following that National Guard deployment to the nation's capital. Actually, that just kicked off about 4 weeks ago today, so looks like we got the feedback. We'll listen back in with the president.
And anybody that's covered me for a long time know that's not my language. It's nonsense. And frankly, you're wasting your time. All you do is trying to get off the great success of D.C. and about 200 other things we've done that are so successful. This is a great, great success, and we have so many. I don't think any president in their first 8 months has had anywhere near the success that we've had.
So will you meet with the Epstein victims? Do you plan to meet with?
I don't know about, nobody suggested that.
But would you be open to doing that?
Certainly I don't like that whole situation with respect to anybody being abused or hurt, but I haven't even thought about that. Thank you all very much. Have a good time. Thank you.
All right, so you see the president there along his side, Vice President J.D. Vance. Looks like they're going into a restaurant there in D.C. Actually, from the sign, it looks like Joe's, which is a pretty well-known, established restaurant in that area. And we just heard the president there making some remarks out on the sidewalk to reporters who've been following him with his travel pool. Just a few moments ago, heard him talking about how he feels like the crime is down, he feels safer in the area, he feels like other people feel safe, and thus he says that the restaurants and attractions can start to boom again in D.C. following that National Guard deployment, an effort that he kicked off to try to curb crime in the nation's capital. As we learn more about that outing, we'll certainly bring that to you, but it kind of came up as a surprise here on Live Impact News as we were watching the feeds. We just happened to see it and wanted to go to it and see what the president had to say. With that, do we still want to take a quick break here? All right, let's go ahead and do that. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We have a couple other things to talk about, including City of Charlotte elections, the primary, starting to get some results. So we'll be back with some numbers in just a bit. All right, welcome back, everyone. Vanessa Rufus here in the Live Impact News studio. As we promised before we went to break, we're going to touch on some of the numbers that are coming in for the Charlotte citywide elections. Keep in mind, this is the primary, and we are touching on some of the top races. You'll recall earlier this hour, we had our Julie Kay joining us to kind of preview some of those for us. But we'll start off with Mayor. Keep in mind, this is really, really preliminary information, as you can kind of see here. Just a few hundred votes just coming in on this one race. So not a lot of information quite yet, but we are seeing at this very moment incumbent Mayor Vi Lyles leading by 222 votes and with 75% of the votes there on the Democratic ballot. So you can see running next in line, Brendan McGinnis, who we had alluded to earlier in the stream, was the challenger who got the FOP endorsement over the mayor in this race. The other race that we're following here, we got a at large. Is that coming up, Jeb? Oh, sorry. We're moving on to District 3. So this is the one where we are seeing Tijuana Brown, who is the incumbent, facing scrutiny and charges, federal charges, which we've been detailing at length, still running for re-election, but challenger Joy Mayo, at least as it stands tonight. Keep in mind, this is really, really early information, leading by 14 votes with 60% of the vote as it stands right now. Keep in mind, once again, early votes here, so many more precincts to come. Tijuana Brown, the incumbent, they're sitting in second place. District 6 now, so this is the Republican ballot. Krista Bakari, who is trying to get that District 6 seat, which her husband, Tarek Bakari, actually vacated early this year to take a job with the Trump administration. As we mentioned, actually just several days ago, he has stepped down from that position, did not explain why, but basically said he was going to be focusing on getting his wife elected to this seat. You can see the challenger there as well to Krista Bakari, Sari Chakra, in second place, obviously there with 38% of the votes. We'll move on now to the at-large seats. So Democratic side, Dimple Ajmira, Victoria Watlington, Lawana Slack Mayfield, and James Smudgy Mitchell Jr., all incumbents, getting the top votes there out of a pretty wide field of candidates who were vying for at-large seats on the Democratic side. So we'll keep an eye on things. Keep in mind, these are the only races that are on the ballot, but those were kind of the ones that folks have been watching pretty closely, had some really interesting storylines regarding, and we'll have the very latest, not only throughout the stream here on Live Impact, but also coming up at 11 here on WCNC+. Let's go ahead and turn now to a feed that we're seeing out of the Charlotte area. Looks like Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are having their meeting today. We are seeing a report being presented, end-of-year state accountability student achievement results. So some data that's being presented right now. Let's listen in.
Significant role in the outstanding growth and achievement CMS has celebrated this and last week. And as we look ahead to the work in the final 40 schools, we're just as eager to continue doing it as the day we started. As my time with you comes to a close tonight, I'd like to launch you with a final thought from Dr. Susan Nichols, principal of Audrey Kell High School. In speaking with her earlier today, she shared this about the work of Capturing Kids' Hearts. Capturing Kids' Hearts has reshaped how I lead. It gave me a simple, practical, connect first, listen deeply, affirm often, and lead with purpose. Because of CKH, I'm a better leader and connector with our students, staff, and families. Our classrooms feel safer, our conversations are braver, and our outcomes are stronger. Most importantly, CKH has reminded me that vulnerability is a superpower. And when I model it, trust grows and learning follows. Best wishes for an amazing school year.
Thank you so much to our valued partners who joined us this evening. Please know we could not have done this impactful work without you and with all of our partners. Today we proudly celebrate these historic achievements, and our work is far from over. Just yesterday I was explaining to Ms. Byers-Bailey the 24-hour rule, which means regardless of the results, we have 24 hours to celebrate or be mad about it, but then we just need to move on. We are focused on sustaining the momentum and academic gains of last year and we've already begun implementing improvements this year. It's really hard to believe, but we are already in the third week of school for our traditional schools, and our early and middle colleges are quickly approaching the midpoint for the first quarter. I look forward to the exciting, endless possibilities that lie ahead for our students and our district. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to Madam Chair to facilitate questions from the board.
All right, board members, I will turn to you for questions.
Questions?
That's great. Awesome.
I do.
I have a question. Do you have?
I just want to take some time to say first, thank you to our educators. Thank you to our teacher assistants. Thank you to every single staff person in our schools, from the bus drivers all the way to our counselors, everyone. Thank you for all this hard work. We definitely appreciate you for your day-to-day commitment to our students. Thank you, Dr. Hill, you stole my thunder. I wish the principals were still here. Thank you, principals, assistant principals, deans, you name it, for all your hard work, for continuing all your day-to-day hard work to making sure that the schools are safe and students can learn and educators are doing their best. I appreciate you for that. Thank you to our assistant superintendents for all your hard work. Thank you. Thank you to our chiefs and our cabinet for helping create that vision that you and Dr. Hill have put together. And especially thank you to Dr. Hill for coming in and doing all the hard work. Thank you to all of our partners that are here. We cannot do this without you. I know this is a small microcosm of our partners, but thank you to all of our partners that are here. We know that the work that you do is an extension of CMS. I want to take a point of privilege to say thank you to Sid Kimball specifically, because I know that there's been a lot of scrutiny around you and what you do, and the data show that your program and your organization is productive, and that we even have candidates that give false data of what was going on about you. So I want to say thank you personally for the work that you do, because now your work has become talking points, even amongst candidates and even some board members, to phase it as being fiscally responsible, but your work is needed. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you to our last but not least, we have two more. Board members, thank you for your commitment of developing the goals and doing the hard work. I know the commitment is not easy, it's a lot of time. Thank you. And lastly, to our parents and students, you are phenomenal. The work that we do is all for you, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you've done and everything. I know it's probably more than 2 minutes, but I'm sorry. Oh, we wouldn't? Okay, never mind. But thank you.
Questions.
Yeah. No, that's why I wanted a point of privilege. But no, I don't have a question. So I know I'm out of order. Sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, Beth didn't mention this, so I am, and then I have a question. English learner progress was phenomenal. It was, I mean, we beat, I'm going to say beat, it's not a competition. We did 5 points better than North Carolina, so the state. And then we did the best amongst sister counties in terms of achievement, 40%. I don't have the graph. Oh, okay, well, there's one that shows, how did we do it? And how do we multiply that?
I'll speak to the data, and maybe Dr. Vaught, if you want to speak to strategies related to that data. The metric that you see, this is the problem with having so much good news, is that it's a little bit tricky to figure out which to report on and which not to. But this is our total progress rate for English language learners. And what that does is it measures two things. One, the annual rate of progress for students in acquiring the English language. And then it adds that to the percent of students who exited English language learner status. In other words, they know English well enough to not need additional support services. So that 40.2% represents a 25.2% English language learner met annual progress, in addition to 15% of our English language learners who exited English language learner status entirely. That is the highest in the state and an 8.6% increase over the previous school year, and is thanks to tremendous efforts on on the part of our teachers, our staff, and our English language learner department, who provides a lot of resources to be able to support that. And things you would see in schools that have made that possible include.
Yes, so first of all, we lead with the mantra of all means all. And so digging into groups of students across varied subgroups, specifically tonight speaking about our EL students, thinking about our strategies such as our PACE toolkit that I believe Dr. Hill spoke to you a lot about. You saw those strategies being regularly implemented, really not just for our students who are second language learners, but those particular strategies provide what we call comprehensible input for all students as they're developing language pathways. Thinking about looking at our cohorts of students and what they needed from a cohort framework, but then also looking at the individual entry points of students. And so when you think about EL students, just like any other student, they come from a continuum, right? So from our newcomers to our students who might have needed less support. So really providing data-driven instructional plans to teachers, providing real-time professional development and coaching, and really relying on what we know to be best practices for growing all students. Tonight, specifically to your question, Ms. Monterey.
And I have a follow-up. And correct me if I'm wrong, but CMS developed their own curriculum for English learners that was award-winning across the state. Is that right?
So yeah,
is that like a reason to the progress?
Yes, so as you know, the PACE toolkit and then the strategies that we use across our district we've amplified and doubled down on those. And so when you go into any school, just thinking about the professional development opportunities, the strategies, the resources, the augmenting of the curriculum. So if it's EL or Open Up or some of our middle school tools. So it's not one particular strategy or one particular platform. It really was a comprehensive approach to look strategically at all of our tools, all of our practices, all of our resources in alignment, certainly with cohorts of students, but more importantly at the individualized needs of.
And folks will continue to listen into this CMS meeting today and bring you any updates. As we mentioned, it looks like they're talking about some data, and once we start to see some more numbers, we'll pop back in. Let's turn now to a headline that we're seeing from our animal welfare side of things here in Charlotte. And of course, I know we talked about animals a whole lot during Clear the Shelters, and sounds like we got some great adoptions. But here we are now getting into September, and we are still talking about some full kennels. So we've got Melissa Nicely joining us from Charlotte Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control, because y'all got so many kittens going on, and yeah, kitten season, it's blowing up, right?
It really is. It's kind of a late kitten season.
Yeah.
It came later. Usually we start seeing kittens around March and that sort of thing, early in March. And this year we really saw it really not ramp up until May and then into June.
Yeah.
When we started really seeing the kittens, and now it's gone poof.
Yeah.
And we've got kittens everywhere.
I know, and they're absolutely adorable, but it's just not a great situation for y'all to have too many kittens, and I know they don't always do too well when they have to be in the shelter environment.
Exactly. Right now, if you're really thinking about adding a pet, I really encourage you to come, because, oh my goodness, I was in getting video and pictures today, and they're so cute.
Yeah, we're showing some of them.
Can't even stand how cute they are. And there's just so many. So any color that you're looking for, any personality, there's some that were a little shyer. There are some that were outgoing. And the best thing was we took about 4 into one of our big interaction rooms, and we just put them down and we let them go, and they were hilarious.
Aww.
And so if you are thinking about adding kittens, what did I say? I said something to somebody, and I'm like, yes, it's kittens galore. Maybe adopt one or more, because I feel like
that
had a little bit Dr. Seuss here, but it's really true. 2 kittens really do really well together, and they can grow up together, and they have a playmate, so they're not driving you crazy in the middle of the night.
But yeah, you were telling us, you sent us some numbers earlier, 139 cats and kittens in your system right now. And it's to the point where y'all are actually doing some waived adoption fees for them?
Yeah, we talked about it this morning, because the cage is in the back. So it's not where the public is, but the ones back where our lost cats and kittens are. They are completely full.
Oh.
And we talked about it, and we're like, we really need to slash prices And we need to just do some fee-waived adoptions for a couple of days, so maybe hopefully incentivize some people to come.
Yeah.
What I like about it is if you don't have to pay the adoption fee, then you can take that money and run over to your closest pet supermarket and get your litter box, your litter, your cat food, a cat carry, all the supplies. So we waive the fees. You can use them to do that, and come in and adopt a couple of kittens, and you've got everything you need.
Yeah. You do say there's a $10 fee for adult cats, though.
It is. So if you live in Mecklenburg County, there's going to be a $10 pet license fee, and that does just apply to the adult cats.
Yeah. We also talk a lot about fostering. Obviously, I'm more on the dog side in the sense of I have more experience fostering dogs, but I understand y'all do a foster program for kittens.
We
and
do.
cats.
Absolutely. So one of the things I like to say is that if it's not time for you to adopt, but you can open your home and your heart to one of these cute little kittens, there are a lot that are actually we were just looking at the ones that are a little older and they're ready for adoption, but we've got a lot of little ones in that aren't quite old enough or way enough yet to be adopted.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that we're looking for foster homes for. Okay. So we'd love to have you come and foster with us. And the other thing that you can do is you can donate. So if you really can't donate, or you really can't adopt, you really can't foster, we need lots of supplies for these little kittens.
Yeah. It kind of tugs at the heartstrings when I'm watching these videos too, and I'm seeing a lot of the kitties like pressing up against the kennel door.
I know.
Like they're trying to get to you.
And they reach out.
Because they want you to touch them and pet them. Oh.
Yeah, they do. A lot of them, you go in there and they're all just kind of begging for your attention, and it's really hard. I mean, it's not, I can't unfortunately have cats or kittens because my dogs, and then my other half is allergic, so we can't. But man, I used to have kittens and cats growing up, and so I miss them. And when I go to take, videos, and I just love the fact that I can get them out and love on them, and they are just so, so cute.
Yeah. And I know this is actually the first time you and I have chatted here in the Live Impact News studio since Clear the Shelters, but that sounds like that was a pretty successful day, and not just for you, but for other shelters, and in the weeks really of that, the whole 4 weeks of Clear the Shelters.
Absolutely. We just sent some final numbers in today for that, actually, and we did really well. It wasn't just about the day. We did really well the day of, but we did well leading up to it, and it makes a huge impact when you can move, up to 100 animals in a day's time or more.
Yeah.
That really opens up a lot of spaces, and as you know very well, Vanessa, those spaces can fill up super quickly.
I know.
And so we were just really grateful to have that opportunities. I think when you're able to waive some fees also, I think it's a good incentive for people to say, oh, you know what, I've been thinking about adopting. Well, now that there is a fee waived, I think I'm going to go ahead. And so it's really great. Again, the kittens and cats are fee waived through Sunday. Both locations have cats. At the Toomey location, it's 2700 Toomey Avenue, and then at the main location, which is 8315 Byram Drive. And this weekend we're open 9 to 5 at both locations, so if you can't make it until the weekend, make sure to get by there. We're going to fee waive until Sunday at closing.
Good to know. They're just so adorable too, and I would urge folks, once again, to find however way that you can help, as you kind of alluded to, Melissa, the fact that, if you can't adopt, maybe foster. If you can't foster, maybe donate. I know that y'all need some help with, milk replacement and bottles and stuff, so maybe donations can help towards that.
Absolutely, and financial donations are great because we can use that to get what we need, or we do have an Amazon wish list that you can find on our website. And let me just shout out the new website. We have a new shortcut to get to our new website that's under the city, and it is Animal Care CLT. .org.
AnimalCareCLT.org. Of course, as we've talked about before here, previously on Live Impact, we've reported on the fact that Animal Care is now its own department, so the police moniker is now gone, and so with that comes a lot of changes with the email addresses and
Yes.
the websites that we've seen. So.
Yes, we're finally getting there. We're getting there, and we're actually working on getting our signage at the front of the shelter updated in the next month or so. And then we've gotten some new vans with some of our new branding in. So it's slowly coming, but it's good. We're getting settled into being under general services with the city, and it's a good fit. We've been welcomed with open arms from them, and I think that they like the fact that now they have a good reason to come and hold meetings, and they can see some animals.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anything you'd like to leave us with before we wrap things up?
I think that as always, we can always use dog adoptions.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, the dog kennels, constantly stay full.
Yeah.
But we're definitely talking about cats this week. So just again, to remind everyone, we're waiving adoption fees now through Sunday because we've got lots and lots and lots of cute, cuddly, sweet kittens that are just ready for you to come and adopt them. So
Yeah.
please come see us.
Yeah, indeed. Once again, 8315 Byram Drive or 2700 Toomey Avenue. Those are the two locations for Charlotte Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control. Melissa Nicely, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact, as always.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to see you. All right, folks, we've got a lot more coming your way here on Live Impact News. Jeb, break or, okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Impact News. As we mentioned before, we got the CMS meeting underway. It looks like we have the superintendent, Crystal Hill, speaking right now, giving her report. Let's listen in.
Continue delivering these measurable results to ensure endless possibilities for every single child in Mecklenburg County. Madam Chair, that concludes me. Just bear with us. I know it's been a long evening. We have board comments, and then it'll be public comments. We need board members with board reports. Board member none.
I'm going to echo a little bit of what Dr. Hill said. So as of today, since the North Carolina General Assembly still has not reached an agreement between the House and Senate state budget, a budget has not passed. That delay means our teachers will not get a raise right now. These are the same teachers who just welcomed our children back with open arms after a year of dramatic, measurable performance improvement and are moving us closer to our goals we set in this 5-year strategic plan. Our Intergovernmental Relations Committee is actively reaching out to other surrounding counties who are part of the Southwest region to try to get together a unified message for the General Assembly. At its core, our priorities are fair pay for teachers and non-certified staff and calendar flexibility, both core to student success. Without competitive pay, especially counties bordering South Carolina, we are at a clear disadvantage in attracting and keeping great educators. And without flexibility in our calendars, we limit our ability to meet the needs of our students and our communities. I also want to address that my name was recently dragged into an article suggesting I'm not focused on student outcomes or that I don't support the superintendent. That is simply false. My commitment as both a board member and a CMS parent has always been on student outcomes. Pressing for answers or questioning investments is not opposition. It is governance. With limited resources, stewardship sometimes means saying no or not now, especially when we're waiting until we see the results to justify further investment, to ensure we invest time, funding, and attentions in the areas that make the biggest impact for our students and align with our community goals. I believe our superintendent has shown tremendous leadership after years of instability in this community, supported by the great work and staff and partners in this community, and as a result, we can start to see under our goals and guardrails that we established. When my commitment is questioned, it is personal. I chose to do this work for my own children and the generation that they are surrounded by. Knowing this would mean time away from my career and my children. I am beyond proud of what we have achieved this past year in the first full year of our 5-year strategic plan, including watching my 2 own kids show tremendous growth in 2nd and 6th grade, being part of the incredible success we just delivered in all these schools. That makes this work deeply meaningful, and I remain steadfast in advocating for what our students, educators, and communities need to succeed. And my call to action is this: to the state, to our local government leaders, and to the community. We have shown the performance. We have delivered results, and it is now time to invest further in our teachers and our students because they deserve it. I urge everyone to raise your voice, contact your representative, and demand the resources our children and educators need. Our students cannot wait.
Thank you. Membership.
Yes, you know, I first want to congratulate our school district on the outstanding state accountability testing scores. Excellence without exception. Thank you to our teachers, number one. Their hard work and dedication to all students. Our principals for the tremendous work that they do. And everyone in a school that helps to make it happen. I want to thank Dr. Hill and her entire team for continuing to press hard, to push, to lift, and to say it is possible. You have all made the difference in our children's lives. I want to take a moment of privilege also to talk about why this district is so important to me, why I'm still here with all the things that I've had an opportunity to experience, is because of my own child, who is today a doctor of medicine. She talked to me about being in neurosurgery, you all, doing anesthesia. It is because of CMS Foundation. It is because of the work that this school district has done for my daughter, many of her classmates, and my family that I am tremendously invested in education. I have done this work for many, many years, and I would never move away from this right now because our children need us. You've already heard talking about funding. An opportunity to be at the state level, talking about funding. But I am honored to be doing this work, to continue to be committed to this work, even though I have family out of state because my daughter needs me right now with my grandchild. But she is saving lives. You all, I'm so amazed that today I get to witness that, to see my child and many of her friends, their dreams have become reality because of what we do every day in CMS, in public schools. In public schools. It's just great. I'm just so overwhelmed just to think about that she's saving lives today. She's a neurosurgeon in anesthesia. How many of us have opportunity to see that? Oh, my time is up. I'm sorry. And I could go on, but my time is up. We know.
All right, Dr. Witherspoon.
I just couldn't let this moment go. I haven't had the opportunity just to express my gratitude to our superintendent for a job well done this year. Talk about a Herculean task. What we've done already has been Herculean. And while this isn't perfect and it's not complete, we have a long way to go. This is what needs to be in our news cycles, particularly as it relates to public education, that we're making progress and that all schools aren't failing, all students can learn. There are high expectations. We've heard it from our principals, our teachers, and we have not only teachers, but all of our staff, every worker, I know all of them, from bus drivers to cafeteria workers, all committed to the welfare and student outcomes, and to our board for working hard together to ensure that the success of all our students. But I just wanted to congratulate not only Dr. Hill, but your team, your staff, for a job well done this year. We look forward to making it much better.
Thank you. Our student advisor, Ms. Silverstein.
Yes, good night, everyone. But I just wanted to mention really quick, I was writing my college essay the other day as it gets to that time, and I was just reminiscing about like my past, and I was writing, have to mention my like job position here, but I was thinking like, why did I take this position? Like, who encouraged me to do it? And so I'm just parents, teachers, students, if you have someone in your life that you think would make a difference, is interested in civic engagement, or just has the willingness to advocate for others and is passionate about what they want, then please encourage them to be the 2026 Charlotte-Mecklenburg School Student Advisor. All it takes is a little push to give students that confidence. But yeah, applications close September 20th, and it's open to any 10th or 11th grader student, so apply. Thank you.
Board Member Klein.
Thank you. I do want to congratulate everyone on their hard work.
All right, folks, we're going to break in here as we come towards the bottom of the hour, looking at updated numbers for the Charlotte citywide primary election results. We're starting to get a few more numbers in, and our Julie Kay is joining us to help kind of break down not only the numbers, but some of the storylines that we've been touching on regarding some of these races. So, looks like, what are we going to start off with? Mayor here?
I knew this was going to happen, that we would get new numbers the second that we come back out to us. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to
live.
Yeah, we should mention she had numbers prepared, and just literally like 3 seconds ago, we got another update. As you know, they kind of dump more precincts more and more as the evening goes on. So
yeah.
I know since you don't have a laptop with you.
I do. We're good.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I agree. We can start with mayor.
Let's
go. I don't think that has changed too much. By Lyles, 74% of the vote so far. And that is a significant lead. I know I was on here just over an hour ago at this point talking about how that's a significant race given the national conversation and some national and statewide criticism of Mayor by Lyles, but so far a very, very comfortable lead at 74% of the vote. Of course, granted that was at first our early in-person ballots that came in, our absentee mail-in ballots, and we are just now, what we just got in the last few minutes, was 6 precincts of 169. So we've got a long ways to go here, but that is still, 74% of the vote is 10,000 votes.
Yeah.
So that is significant. Second place, we've got Jebediah Boyd, who's got 11%, followed by Brendan McGinnis, Tigris, and then Delter. So some significant gaps there.
Yeah. What is interesting to me is, we do see Tigris, Sidney Acute McDaniel, usually running against the mayor. This is a typical, I see Tigris, Sidney Acute McDaniel on these ballots, frequently, but you've got the other folks, the other challengers who are kind of topping her at this point.
Yeah, and Tigris is one of the ones who had been more outspoken against Lyles in her response, or what some people would say lack of response to the murder of Irina Zarutska initially. Of course, that has since changed to some extent. We did get the updates from the mayor's office last night about changes to CATS moving forward. But that initial response was really heavily criticized by some of these candidates, Tigris especially. I do think it's interesting. Gemini Boyd is someone who, calls himself an activist.
Yeah.
He's been around the community quite a bit. Brendan McGinnis, though, did get that FOP endorsement, so I'm not surprised to see him getting a little bit more traction
More
there.
of a bump,
Mhm.
yeah. And I mean, next up on the races, I don't know if that's going to be the 3. I know, sorry, Jeb's juggling 5 laptops right now. We apologize.
This is classic
Okay, it
election
is
night.
District 3. He's the one running the graphics, by the way, so we're kind of at his mercy. But this is the Tijuana Brown seat. And this is,
as of now,
a
right.
trend that we're seeing. When we first checked in, obviously, just a couple of votes, and now more, but it's still got her in second place.
Yeah, the more votes come in, that lead for Joy Mayo does persist. Again, like I'm going to say it probably 10 more times while I'm sitting here, but take this with a grain of salt. It
Yes.
is early, but that is significant. I know that, it says 959, that does not sound like a lot of votes. It's less than 1,000. Keep in mind that this is a primary election. It is not going to be anywhere comparable to a presidential election or even a November election. So this is going to be smaller turnout in general, but that is just in general a significant gap at this point. Of course, we've been talking about this. Tijuana Brown has faced numerous hurdles in this campaign. She is facing a federal indictment. She's charged with misusing thousands of dollars worth of COVID-19 PPP loans. Of course, those charges are still pending. There will be a trial. And that adds layers to it because, of course, if she is reelected, what happens if she is then convicted of a crime? She is no longer eligible for the seat, and that puts a lot of things in question. And that is why Joy Mayo received quite a few important endorsements. The Charlotte Mecklenburg FOP, the Black Political Caucus, I believe the Charlotte Observer as well. And so I'm not shocked to see that Joy Mayo is doing well, but that is a significant gap.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of us were kind of curious to see how the charges would be impacting Tijuana Brown, considering, I guess, her response following it, knowing that she basically had told reporters that she was going to continue to run again and to be in her office. And we even had that town hall, which we know you covered.
Yes.
And lots of folks showed up, and we didn't see anyone. There was a whole question and answer period of that town hall, and we didn't even see a question about that come up.
And I was thinking about that, and that was why I thought that this would be, and it still could be, but I thought this would be a relatively close race because nobody seemed that pressed about it.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone's concerned with what affects me right now, and for them at that town hall, it was development. There's a grocery store going down the street. There's a building that's too big. Or there's water issues. So people were more concerned with, of course, naturally the things that impact them. After not hearing anyone actually publicly ask about that, I was pretty surprised. Granted, that Q&A did get cut a little bit short. There were some people still in line, but there were at least a dozen questions asked, I believe, and none of them regarding that. So
Yeah.
this is interesting to see.
Yeah, of course, we'll continue to follow that throughout the evening. Also keeping an eye on the District 6 race. That's got Christopher Kari and Sari Chakra. So
comfortable lead for her right now.
Yeah, there we see that 701 votes versus 243.
Yeah, that started out closer, but it seems as more of the day of precincts come in that is getting a little bit more comfortable of a gap for her. But only 2 out of 38 for District 6 so far, so that still could change.
Yeah, indeed. We've got also some at-large seats that we're looking at, and at last check, we saw basically all the incumbents, and I think
Yes.
that's still the case. Yeah, there we see it.
Yep, absolutely. Namrata, I am curious to see if she picks up some. I've seen a lot of,
because she's in 5th. I know we kind of cut off at the top 4, but she's, from what I can tell, in 5th, so just under Victoria Watlington.
yeah, but still about half the votes that Victoria Watlington has right now. That was a smaller gap earlier on in this process. I've seen a lot of traction for her. Just you see all those signs, and I've seen bumper stickers and
endorsements too.
And endorsements. So I'm curious to see if that gap closes a bit. Victoria Watlington, of course, an incumbent. All 4 of these top spots are incumbents, but she was the most outspoken when it came to the at
Police
the time
settlement, yeah.
this police settlement that nobody really had any answers about. She was the one to bring those concerns of corruption. to the forefront. So I'm not surprised to see her doing well right now. But yeah, that's interesting that it's all the incumbents.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on things. As you mentioned, these are just a few of the precincts reporting. So I think what we're seeing, and I think you mentioned it, but 6 out of 169 in some cases. So
we've got some time ahead of us.
Time. Yes. All right. Well, come back and see us whenever you see a big dump of numbers. If you have a moment, I know you're working on your piece at 11.
I feel like it's going to happen as soon as I leave here.
Right.
So maybe back soon.
Indeed. All right. Well, folks, on that note, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes with maybe a big dump of numbers, question mark, or another feed, because we got a few things that we're watching here. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for sticking with us, folks. We are going to turn back now to that big headline of the day. Not really just locally, because we know this is getting a lot of national attention, but the latest update in that cat stabbing case from last month. As we mentioned, DOJ, FBI now getting involved, and we're seeing federal charges now being levied on the suspect in this case. We want to take you to this emotional briefing by officials from just a couple of hours ago.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry we're a little late. I'm here with Jim Barnacle, who's the special agent in charge of FBI Charlotte, which covers all of North Carolina. He and I just got off the phone with the family of Irina Zarutska, spoke with her mother, spoke with her uncle, had a very touching call with them. Our hearts go out to Irina's family. They are suffering. Like any of us would be. It was a very touching call. Our hearts go out to them. She is a refugee. She literally came to the United States from a bomb shelter in Ukraine to escape the war, and she was going about her day. She was coming home from work on a light rail train, like all of us do all the time, and she was brutally murdered. As a native of Charlotte, I'm so sad to say that our city has gotten to this place. I was born here. I grew up here. I remember when the light rail was built. I remember the development it spurred. I remember the excitement. And to think now that you can't even feel comfortable riding that train hits me deep. The light rail brought this city access to jobs, access to education. People could take the train to college. It really put Charlotte on the map. And this incident has really, really injured that. Now, DeCarlos Brown Jr., who we allege stabbed Erna Sarutska, is in state custody on first-degree murder charges. But I'm here today to announce that we're going to supplement those state charges with federal charges. These federal charges will go alongside the murder case in state court, and we hope that they will ensure justice for Erna, for her family, and for the whole Charlotte community. The charge we are bringing is in Title 18, which is the criminal code. It's section 1992A7, which is the law that Congress passed really for this situation. It is an act of violence on a mass transportation system. It is a law that is there because acts like this affect the American way. It affects our daily life. It is random acts on a train that are the thoroughbred and how we get through our cities to work, to our places of education, to our families. It is our way of American life. Crime makes people stop taking that light rail. They give up those opportunities, and we are here to be sure that we can save our city and bring those opportunities back. The maximum penalty for this federal crime is life in prison without parole or the death penalty. Of course, each individual case receives its own sentencing hearing by a federal judge that will decide the sentence based on the individual factors in this case. Of course, at this point, we're only making allegations. We do have a charge. We filed a criminal complaint. It has been signed by a federal judge. The charges have been brought, but they are just charges. Getting there has been a process. I want to thank the FBI, which has an incredible team that has investigated this case. They've ensured we had a basis for federal charges. I want to thank the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department that started this investigation, apprehended the defendant immediately after the incident happened at the light rail station. And I want to thank the District Attorney's Office and Spencer Merriweather, who brought first-degree murder charges right away when this happened. I think everyone knows the facts of this case, but I will briefly recitate what is in our criminal complaint. And that is that at 9:55 on August 22nd, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department responded to a call that there had been a stabbing on a light rail train. They located the victim, who had suffered stab wounds in her neck, on her hand. They found a pocket knife on the scene, and they apprehended the defendant at the rail stop. Now, much more recently, the surveillance video was obtained from the train, and that's really what gave us the basis for federal charges here. And the surveillance video shows Erna Sarutska getting on the train by herself in her work uniform, sitting down by herself in a row that just happened to be in front of DeCarlos Brown Jr. Approximately 4 minutes later, Mr. Brown pulled out a pocket knife. You see him on video open that pocket knife, and he stabbed her 3 times in the neck. He then walked off the train with blood dripping from the knife. This is obviously a horrible, horrible situation. But this is why federal statutes exist. They exist to take care of situations like this because no one should sit in fear when they sit on the light rail. If you sit in fear on the light rail, you sit in fear when you walk around the streets of our center city like I do every day. You sit in fear when you go to our parks like I do with my daughter every weekend. You sit in fear at our sporting events, our entertainment venues, at concerts, at restaurants, at our museums. These are all the things that we have worked as a city so hard to build. We built this city. Companies have come here in droves. More than 150 people move here every day. We built a city that people want to live in, but we can lose that all if we allow violent crime like this to go on in our streets. And I'm here to tell you, the federal government is going to save our city from that. To Erna's family, we will pursue justice. We will use the full weight of the law. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate your attention to this case. I know this has gotten national attention. I know that there is a lot of thoughts about this case. There's policy decisions being made because of this case. But as someone who just talked to the family of the victim, I hope you'll remember her. Because this is hard for them. It's their case, and we will bring justice here. I'll now turn it over to Special Agent in Charge Barnacle.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Thank you for everyone that's here today. You know, I'm saddened to be up here today talking about a violent, heinous act that occurred on our metro system. This could have happened to any young person that was riding the train that night, but it didn't. It happened to Erna, and her death is an absolute tragedy. There is no one who will debate that point. Even more tragic, she chose to come to Charlotte to escape the violence of her war-torn home in Ukraine. Irina had settled into her community. She made friends. She immediately got a job. The first day she was allowed to work, and she got a work permit here, she got a job that very first day. She worked at a senior citizens center. She worked at a pizza place. She took care of animals in the neighborhood. She was building her young life. She had recently moved in with her partner. Her family let us know she graduated from college in Kyiv with a degree in art and restoration. We don't know the extent of what obstacles she faced in the Ukraine, other than we did learn just a few moments ago that she was living in a bomb shelter. Sadly, everyone saw in surveillance video how tragic her life ended. We're shocked, we're saddened. It's very, very difficult. This young lady rode that train many times. She was probably tired after a long day at work and just trying to get home to her loved ones, but she never made it. In an instant, her life was over, and her mother, her father, her siblings, her brother and sister, and her other family and friends, their lives will never be the same. As you heard from U.S. Attorney Ferguson, we spoke with Irina's mother, Anna, and her uncle just a few minutes ago, and we told them of the federal charges brought against Carlos Brown Jr. We hope this additional charge will help bring them a measure of justice and accountability for this horrific act. I want to thank our partners, Chief Jennings and the CMPD. We work every day with this police department. We co-locate agents and officers and detectives from the police department on our violent crimes and safe streets task forces. This is not a policing problem. CMPD is out there every day protecting our streets. You may not know how close we are to the police departments, but throughout this state, our partnerships with local police departments and state departments are critical to the work that we do. The task force partnership is a force multiplier. CMPD and other local partners work closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office, this office, to assess whether local and state cases are appropriate to charge federally. We are pleased to supplement the Charlotte and Mecklenburg Police Department's work on this investigation and the appropriate federal charges that were brought forth today. The FBI will work tirelessly to hold violent offenders accountable. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, has empowered every field office to shift resources to violent crime to help keep our city's streets safe. We will continue to work with U.S. Attorney Ferguson, the Department of Justice under the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the FBI Director Patel to pursue justice for Irina and her family and for the people of Charlotte. In closing, Mr. Ferguson mentions this. The system has failed us in this case. There is no doubt. Everyone deserves to go about their daily lives, to get to work, to get to school, just across town without the fear of being attacked. We should live in a country and in a city where accountability, if you're convicted for a violent crime, is always paramount. Well, thank you, and I think we'll take questions.
Yeah, I want to add one thing. Before we take questions, I want to add one thing that I hope the family won't mind me sharing. But after Irina's death, the embassy in Ukraine called and said, we'll help you bring her home. And her family said no. They said she loved America. We're going to bury her here. So I think we can give her an America to be proud of. As Mr. Barnacle said, something here is broken, and we're here to fix it. We're happy to take your questions.
Right.
Brett, yeah.
Yeah. In terms of speaking with the family, can you just talk a little bit more about that conversation? It's clear it was emotional for you. So can you talk about that conversation? What was the family's reaction to the new charges? And because not a lot of people have actually spoken to the family, so can you talk more about the conversation?
Sure, and we were both there for the conversation, so you can add what you want. It was a very heavy conversation. We talked to her mother, we talked to her uncle. Her mother speaks very little English. We had a translator from the FBI there, and they wanted to talk about their daughter. That's what we talked about. Yes, ma'am.
Casey Jones from WCCB. Special Agent Barnacle, you mentioned that this was not a policing failure. Where exactly did the system fail?
Well, it's hard to say. This man was charged 14 times. There's been numerous encounters with police departments. He was arrested by the CMPD in January, but he's still on our streets. So we'll have to figure this out, right? This is not a problem the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office can solve. We can work cases. We can react to crime. We can be proactive and try to prevent crime. Look, I think, President Trump's spoken about this case in the last few days, and he has daughters. I have daughters. So it really hits close to home, right? And why do we have people, whether there's mental health issues or violent crime issues, why are they on the streets? Why are our buses, our trains, our transportation systems almost homeless shelters or mental health shelters? We need to fix that. We need to a lot more work from society, from the people in power and the politicians. It's not something I can solve, but we can work cases and we can bring people to justice.
Hunter.
Hi there. Thank you for doing this. First off, charges came very quickly after on the state side. I wonder why it took this office 2 weeks to do one federal count here.
Yeah, well, federal charges are usually slower than state charges to begin with. I mean, the federal system is the first line of defense. They charge our violent crimes, our murders, our things like that. The federal system is really for repeat offenders, the worst of the worst. And in reality, the fact pattern here screams of a state crime. I mean, there was no gun used here. This was a knife case. There really is not a natural federal crime here. The federal crime we have is because it happened on a light rail system and because Congress has decided that that is essential to society. So we took the time to find that statute, do some research on that statute, make sure that we had the allegations and the facts to support that statute. And like most of our cases, we make sure our cases are pretty airtight before we bring them. And this was actually quite fast for us. We will sit on cases for months sometimes to make sure that we are successful once we bring them.
I want to follow up on
yeah.
that. Is this the right charge? Because it's my understanding under this statute, I'm not an attorney, but that he would have had to have been trying to take over the train or threaten other people, like personnel on the train. There is a federal charge for entering with intention to commit a homicide. That's a different statute. I just wonder how strong is this charge?
Yeah, well, so it is a broad statute, and part of the statute came out of 9/11, and some of it is meant for hijacking a train or things like that. But we're charging A7, subsection A7, aggravating factors, subsection B1, which are exactly for this situation. They are for when there is a passenger on the train and you do an act of violence on the train. And the reason for that is because hijacking a train is obviously a terrible thing that disrupts society, but making it so no one can ride the train or is too scared to ride the train is about the same threat. It's a terroristic act to make people afraid to go about their daily lives. That's what terrorism is, and that's why this statute is completely appropriate here. Now, this is a criminal complaint. We will indict later. We continue to look at facts. The FBI continues to investigate this case, and we may have more charges later. But for now, we have this charge, and we think it's an appropriate one. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Ryan Orlin from Charlotte. So thank you for doing this. Yeah. Have either of you been in discussion with the White House since this footage was released? And if you have, could you share anything about what was discussed?
I have not spoken with the White House.
No, nor have I.
Okay, then an alternative question if I could. My editor wanted me to check. There's some conversation, people who believe that they hear Carlos Brown say after the stabbing in that footage, I got that white girl. It's unclear to me if he says that. Are y'all able to confirm if he did say that or what he said?
We are still investigating. Obviously, we have the videotape. We have some other evidence as well. Our investigators who are sitting here in the front row are looking at other angles. As Mr. Ferguson said, there is potential for other federal charges. So we'll just let the investigation play out. I can't comment directly on the facts.
Eric.
Yes, sir. I'm curious. You both mentioned the fragility of losing faith in the transit system. There have been a lot of people around this asking whether the transit system has structural flaws. Earlier you said it's a breakdown in the system. So how does the transit system itself fit into the broader picture of this case, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear something's broken here, and it's probably more than one thing. I think certainly the state justice system has some issues, but I think you're right, the train does too. And we've seen recently people go on the train and report what's going on the train. It's become a mobile homeless shelter. It's an air-conditioned place. There's no one checking tickets. No one's using tickets. And quite frankly, the revenue from the tickets that could be collected could pay for more security on the train. So I do think there's more we could be doing on our train and more we should be doing, but that's not our job. Our job is to prosecute this case. Yes, ma'am.
You just said that this wasn't really a natural fit initially for federal charges. At what point did you get involved to start looking at that for federal charges, and what made you do that then?
Well, I mean,
you were first.
So Irina was murdered on the 22nd at about 10 p.m. I learned of the case on the 23rd in the morning. Our team was already in contact with detectives at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. From that day forward, we were in conversations with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So we've been talking about this from the get-go. But we pushed a little bit harder when we saw the videotape, right? And that I didn't see that evidence early on, and horrified like everyone else when I saw it, and as was Mr. Ferguson. Everyone was able to get together and come to a charging decision.
And for us, it was a little bit, the act itself doesn't scream federal crime, but when we started to see the effects of that act and we saw the public saying, we're not riding the light rail anymore, we're afraid to go to the park, that's when my mind and my office started saying, there's maybe something more than a single murder here. This might be a federal charge. And we started digging and found this charge. Yes, ma'am.
Courtney Davis with Spectrum News. This isn't the first incident that's happened on Charlotte Transit. There have been violent offenses on buses as well in the last couple of years. What is it that brought this to that level to get this amount of resources behind this case as well?
Yeah, well, we're concerned about the buses too. This is not just about rail, and we're concerned about the streetcar. We're concerned about the special transit vehicles that are used for handicapped individuals. This is a problem with transit, and it's not just transit. We're concerned about our parks and our streets and our...
All right, folks, our time here on Live Impact is about to come to a close. Before we turn you over to our next hour of programming, we just want to remind you, of course, we've got the numbers that continue to come in for the Charlotte citywide races. Looks like, as far as the at-large and the mayor-type races, we've got about a third of the precincts being reported. So still a ways to go. Make sure you stick with us here on WCNC Plus at 11. We'll have the full results as we have them at that hour, as well as all of your headlines. Thanks for being with us.